Hello everyone, this is another episode of Weird Guy, Bald Guy. I'm Weird Guy.
I guess I'm Bald Guy.
We are back for Season 2 of Materia Machina. That's why there was a break. It's not because we just weren't making videos. And we thought, what a better way to come back for our big Season 2 than to redo our original video, Is Game Collecting Over? Now that we have new experiences. It's also going to be kind of about physical media.
What did we say the first time we did this video? The physical media is on the up and up?
No, I think it wasn't very hopeful then.
No, and it's even bleaker now. Something that does change, though, which obviously we'll get into this, is that I think I'm okay with that. I don't think I was before.
I might argue against that in the course of this video a little bit. I do accept it. I don't know. I think we were talking a lot about, like, the utility of game collecting. I wasn't then, and I'm still not someone who's like, we are the ones that are going to, like, bear the flame of video games into the future. It's just a hobby I like doing, and in that sense, I don't think it's going to go away. Even if you look at something like music, where I would argue our digital landscape is better than it's worked out so far with video games. People, like, there still is a market for vinyl and CDs. It's just like, it's a thing an artist does.
Right.
They'll be like, here's my 4 different versions of my new Taylor Swift album because I'm Taylor Swift. And then, the fans will buy that. That's kind of where game collecting or just physical media is heading in my head, because it's pretty clear that it's not going to be carried on by, like, the main companies at this point.
I think ultimately it's just obviously not cost effective for them to do that. And also, every new generation of gamers that comes along is going to care less and less about it. Obviously, people that grew up with physical media are going to want it. But if you didn't even grow up with it, like, why do you even care?
Yeah, I mean, like, college kids now buying vinyl didn't grow up with
That's
vinyl.
True.
Once they, like, dig into YouTube and see Materia Machina and see these, like, sick guys collecting games and stuff, they'll be like, this is something I want to buy at Urban Outfitters.
There you go.
And then that's what it'll turn into.
The future of GameStop is they're going to rebrand as like a Urban Outfitters of video gaming.
They are definitely going to need to rebrand after tomorrow. Because I don't know, little transparency, we're recording this on Friday the 5th, which I am putting in my prediction is the final day GameStop will exist, because tomorrow they're doing a trade-in anything event.
Anything, like not even video games. It can be an old pair of shoes.
It can be an old pair of shoes, it can be an old parachute. It'll probably be a bunch of broken phones and stuff. I assume that they're just gonna have to ship off to a landfill. I don't know.
Yeah, when you first told me about this, I was immediately thinking of all the things I want to get rid of, but then I just imagine myself standing in line at GameStop with everyone else with all their shit, and I'm just like, I don't want to be there for that.
A bunch of angry people just argue with GameStop employees that will not be feeling great.
They don't even have to give me credit. If they just put a dumpster out front and let me just get rid of my junk, that'd be worth it.
I feel like that's gonna be what they end up doing. It's gonna be like, put the submissions here. It's gonna be a trash can. Back to the actual point here. Xbox is done. They just do Game Pass, which I think Game Pass is a thing that started out as a great deal, but like Netflix and whatnot, it kind of becomes less and less of a good deal the more people use it, which is one reason why I'm still not feeling great about our digital future. There already is like Uplay and Epic Launcher and stuff, and it's like, imagine a future where all of those are separate and all of them are $40 and that's how you play games. That's kind of what I'm scared of.
I mean, I'm okay with the digital future because I know it's inevitable. It's been interesting processing where this is all going while running a game store, and now that the game store is closed and I've had time to think about all of like what that all means. Like, I think that's definitely a part of it. Like, I think having physical media and having a physical store you go to, I think those are adjacent like conversations. When we were running the store, I hated Game Pass because Game Pass pretty much killed. It killed me.
No. That's 2
Sorry,
weeks on Game Pass. That's right there. Oh, that's probably fine. Okay, Game Pass.
Game Pass kind of like killed the secondary market for like new games coming out. What's the point of buying, even if it's cheap, like on sale, physical game, trying it out for a few weeks and then trading it in when if it came into Game Pass, you could just try it.
I don't know if that could purely be pinned on Game Pass because when the new games are like 300 gigabytes and you just download them anyways.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a lot of the reason why people don't bother. And Nintendo figured out how to do that without even having huge games. They just were like, nope, you can't have a game bigger than 64 gigabytes or else. So, that was really cool. I hope that they do create like tiered storage spaces for the game cartridges, because the Switch had that where you could have like a 4 GB game card or a 32 GB game card or something. But with the Switch 2, you have to have a 64 GB game cartridge, no matter the size of your game, which is expensive, unless your game perfectly fits in that range. If it's bigger than that, then you can't get it all on a cart anyways, and if it's smaller than that, you're just wasting a ton of money on like storage you don't need. So they've kind of shot themselves in the foot. And it's weird because I genuinely don't think Nintendo was trying to pivot away from physical media that hard. I think they just literally didn't think it through or something.
It's very weird. Nintendo, but they do weird stuff like that, so it's all good.
They do, yeah.
But like a physical game is just a disc and a Blu-ray case.
Yeah, but it is the game.
It is the game, yes. So if you did want to like trade it later, there's value to it. Or if it did become rare for some reason, it could grow in value.
Yeah, well also, I think it gets overblown in weird ways, like the ownership versus digital renting thing.
Right.
But I think in some ways it is significant, because hear me out, and I need to do a little prop comedy for this. Let's imagine in some hypothetical future, some like evil government decides that, let's just say like a game like Minecraft is too radical because you're mining for diamonds without profit incentive.
Right.
So they change it to late stage capitalism Minecraft, where you can only mine for Bitcoin.
Okay.
And then only the people that have original copies of Minecraft, say the 3DS edition like I have, will be able to play that original socialist version of Minecraft. And I think that's just, like, obviously I'm joking a little bit with that example. And it doesn't even have to be the government. It could be Square Enix deciding, hey, we don't like the reception of this game, let's change it. The original thing that led me down this train of thought is, do you know the game Stellaris?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Is this one of those Paradox games where you're like, you spend 200 hours losing, building an empire? I downloaded that game in probably like 2018 or something. I forget the exact year. Whenever it came out is when I downloaded it. And I was really into, I'm going to take this hat off. I was really into it for a while. But then I came back to the game like 2 years later, and they had added so many updates that I was like, this is just a completely different game. I'm used to that stuff happening in like MMOs and like online games like that. And Stellaris has a multiplayer, but it's largely a game I played single player. And it's just a weird feeling to be like, I bought this one thing and then it got completely changed. And I don't have, like, I can't even go back to the old version and like play the way I used to play. So I think in that sense, having the discs is worth it, or just physical media in general. And I mean, obviously there are like caveats to that now, because some games are like, they always have to be online anyways or something. So even if you had the disc, you'd still have to update them.
Another thing that I thought a lot about while we were running the game store was, if they stop making games today, there's still more games out there than I have hours of life left to play. Like, even if I just stopped everything I was doing, I was just playing video games all day, every day, I could never even probably
awesome.
get through my backlog.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, if like it came to a situation where a corporate entity like got rid of a game, from a principled standpoint, yeah, this is horrible. Or if they like made, they changed Minecraft, or they changed something to be like completely different, I still have all these other games to play. I mean, I think Nintendo has shown with the Nintendo Online, I don't think all those games, I think there's a sidebar conversation to have about like game preservation with physical media, because it's great that you can play all these SNES and Game Boy and NES games on your Switch, but they also look like garbage. As evil as all these corporations are, I'm not like super worried. I don't think anyone's actually going to do something that crazy.
I don't necessarily think so either. And I'm not that worried. I'm obviously a little bummed out at the future of games where not everything is going to be physical, because I have a thing right now where like, if there's a game I want that I assume will come out physically, I will just wait. But there are bigger issues in the world. Like, that's not the end of the world. I already own about as many games as I could play in the rest of my life in your hypothetical. So like, even in a world where when all digital and I don't know, I'm like, I can't do this, I'm fine. Like, I can play video games for the rest of my life. I can play whatever I want, basically. So I'm not that worried about it. But no. Yeah, I'm not that worried about it. And I think it will be cool. I have a vision of like, there'll be like still boutique indie game releasers, like limited run games somehow is going to end up the biggest physical game producer going into the future, because I think that is the model of what people will buy, is like weird niche cult classic kind of cool indie games that people get excited about, and maybe they are willing to pay a little bit more than they would for a physical version, for a digital version of it. Like, that's the crowd that's going to buy physical games into the future.
Yeah.
And those are the modern physical games I have the most fun with collecting and playing anyways. So, like, it's not that huge of a deal. The older stuff will still exist, until it rots, because everything rots. But it is interesting also, because you were talking about game preservation, and it's like, you can't have one without the other. Like, it is nice to have the original box and the original cartridge and all that, but also, if you really want to preserve that game, oddly enough, like, the way to do that is dumping it into a ROM. Not that I would ever suggest. Like, that is ultimately the safest way, in my opinion, to preserve 100%. A game.
Yeah, no, definitely. One of the other things that kept me up at night thinking about the store and the game collection and where this is all going too is like, I met a lot of people that collect a lot of games. What is the end game to collecting? Like, are you going to sell it? And if so, like, that market is always changing. If you are in the, like, trying to profit off of, like, holding on to games as, like, assets, you have to sell them at the right time. Not all the games are going to be, like, peaking at the right time. So how do you know, like, when you're going to do it? And are you ready to let go of it? It's probably unlikely that you're going to gain a big enough collection when you're, like, 90 years old. You're going to offload the whole thing.
It's not going to be
make all this money off of it. No, that's not going to happen. That's insane. If you're going to sell it, like, piece by piece, it's going to take you decades to sell it anyway if you have a huge collection.
Yeah.
So what's the end game? You're just going to give it to a museum in the future?
At least personally, I would say I view mine as almost more of like a journal. Like, I have a spreadsheet where I log the games I play and like my feelings about them. So it's more of it's just a hobby. I did have the interesting realization of, when I buy a game, I am kind of just turning my money into a different form of money,
right.
Which is, I guess, a little bit comforting. I mean, I'm not, I am practical enough that I've never had any major struggles. Well, okay. I've never, I'm paying rent before I buy video games consistently.
Right. You're feeding yourself.
Yes.
And clothing yourself.
Yeah.
Good. Okay,
in Grinch pajamas. And Grinch earrings. I think that when people get all these grandiose ideas, it's nice. Like, I respect the line of thought, but also it is a little bit of just, they're kind of comforting themselves. I was talking to my grandma the other day at Thanksgiving about, like, she has all these old film reels and stuff. And she was like, oh, yeah, you like physical media. Like, are you have any interests in these? And I was like, if it's that or, like, the dump, I'll figure something out.
Right.
But I'm going to disintegrate them if I try to touch these things. I'm not the guy that's going to, like, save these reel-to-reel movies. If the game that you're trying to preserve already exists as a dump file on the internet, that's better than anything you can do personally to preserve it, I feel like. And my approach is just, I want to have cool experiences to talk about with people, because I like the art form of video games.
Yeah, no, 100%. Being able to define, like, your own experience with it is good. And I like what you're saying about, like, it's a hobby, because it really is. I mean, I think people take it too far, and I do think sometimes even like limited run, I think, preys on people like wanting to have, I don't know, all these like extra little things to go along with the game. All of that, you mix it all up, and that's like part of the joy of the hobby and the joy of this. I mean, I think when Limited Run did the Castlevania collection, and they made it, and it looked like the old Konami, like, NES, like, boxes. Like, I think things like that, like, details like that, the collecting and the physical part of it, way more interesting than just, like, a card, a sticker, a Switch case for a game that was never going to get a physical release, things like that. I wish, like, some of the publishers would do more of that stuff, but also I don't think that the publishers actually understand, like, what collectors, or I don't think they understand the spectrum of, like, collectors. Like, they think everyone wants a cloud statue in a giant box. And like, no, I don't collect figurines. I know a lot of people do. I do not. I just want, like, a nice looking case that is going to go on my shelf with the rest of them that probably, like, somehow ties into all the other games from that franchise, because maybe I just enjoy collecting all the Final Fantasy games or all From Software games or something like that, Like, I don't think publishers actually have a good handle on, like, what a good collectible piece of media is. And I actually think, to go back to your music analogy, music companies, like people that make LPs and things like that, or artists that are, like, putting that out there, and they probably have more control over the creative like part of what it looks like.
Yeah.
I think that plays a big part in why that's successful still today. I think the thing we didn't mention is the practicality of, like, because I think you were talking about it a little bit with Sony and the Switch, the 64 gigabytes, but it's like there's a practical storage issue for digital files also, how quickly we can download something in real time, like if you're going to stream it and not have it exist anywhere on any device you have. So there's like all these like actual like practical things that, and those technological hurdles are going to be solved eventually.
The downsides of physical media that I think become more and more real as the oldest stuff gets older, and also the kind of flood of dead stock that is slowly building up in every store. I mean, obviously in Materia and stuff, we had, every video game store and every video game seller has just these bins of like Madden that no one is ever going to buy, but they feel kind of bad throwing them away. But like, no one, enough people, anyone that wants Medal of Honor or Madden or whatever already has it, and they are going to sit there forever and just get older. And on top of that, people's NESs are breaking every day. Like, I think those two things are kind of the major downfalls of physical video games in my mind.
Yeah, the amount of shovelware, and that was another thing that was hard running a game store, or hard explaining to people, is like, yeah, there's this box of like DS games that we have here, and yeah, maybe price charting has this one for $1 and this one for $5, and this one's for $6, whatever. But like, really, like, unless someone's gonna, the value of a game is whatever someone is gonna pay for it. And if you're running a physical store, it's the value of someone who would actually walk into your store and pay money for it. A lot of times, a lot of those games have zero value whatsoever and probably should just go in the garbage. And they will eventually. Like, I mean, but that's like, whose mandate is it to preserve a physical copy of every game? There's a little like Smithsonian of video games. There's video game museums starting to pop up now. There's not like a real clear mandate within the industry, the hobby, like all where all these things kind of come together, where there's someone. But I don't know, even then, it's like Zoo Tycoon for DS,
well,
and
that
like
one.
Barbie something or other, like My Little Pony DS, like, I don't know. There's like, so I don't even know what all the DS.
Zoo Tycoon's a decent series,
right.
But all the other ones, yeah, I don't know. I've made similar points in past videos, I think, but like in a hypothetical future where we lose every single copy of Jillian Michaels' Wii game, like, that's
Right,
fine.
that's crazy. Right.
We don't. No one. You can look. You can just guess. You can look on the list of every Wii game ever made. You can see Jillian Michaels' workout, and you can be like, oh, it's like a video of Jillian Michaels on the Wii, and that's, fine. You don't get to play it. I'm sorry. It's gone. We threw them all away. I don't know. Maybe someone can make some sort of art with it, some sort of mech robot maybe made out of a bunch of video games, so it's not going in a landfill. The reality is we don't have every painting ever made throughout human history. I don't know why people are like, we need to have every single version of Madden that exists on every version of every system. Like, some of them are going to get lost because they're not significant and they're just not that important.
I think what is important is the game publishers, the large ones, ultimately shouldn't be the ones deciding what we curate for the future. Right now, they have a lot of power in that. Games you can play forever, but then there's like, these games that are not anywhere that you can play unless you do have a physical copy. Like, somehow we have to flip the script so that the people that the hobbyists, the collectors, all of those people have more agency over what is being curated. And that's ultimately like what like the ROM dumps and everything, people doing all of that online are ultimately doing, which is great. I guess I wish the companies were just more in tune with what people wanted. I don't think they are.
Besides Limited Run, because obviously they did Glover physical re-release on Switch. They did the Gex trilogy. They did Bubsy. Those are the games people have really been wanting to make sure get physical releases on the Switch.
I don't think it's just a software thing too. Like Analog, when you look at the company Analog making like the updated like hardware to play some of these games, I think that's also an important piece of the puzzle, like moving forward as well. Because like CRTs, like, yeah, there's always going to be somebody out there that actually knows how to do a tube swap and like restore a CRT, but those people are going to get fewer and fewer, and like eventually we're not even going to have that. Eventually we're not even going to have flat screen TVs. We're going to have something else.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have this whole conversation like over again. So I don't know. I think having fans, consumers be more part of the conversation with these companies and the legacy of the games, I think is important. Moving like even 10, 20 years down the line.
How I see my spot in all of this is I'm just going to explore the medium of video games at my own pace. and find the things that I like, find the things that I'm like drawn to. And then I'll just, I'll talk about those. I've always made video game content alongside playing games. That's just even like since I was a kid. And yeah, I don't know, like over time I've been like, I'll be the monster catcher guy. I'll be the fishing games guy. These are the things I'm going to seek out and like learn about. I've been hating on Madden, but if you want to be the guy that has played every version of Madden, like there is some amount of value in that. You'll get a unique perspective on life, I guess, maybe. There definitely is someone out there doing that, and I think there should at least be one person, I guess, doing that, but not every single person is gonna want those games, and that's fine. And yeah, then it just kind of becomes like the court of public opinion moving forward, which I guess I would encourage collectors getting into it to not instantly be drawn to those types of games that everyone is already talking about. Like, if you want to get into game collecting, you shouldn't pay hundreds of dollars for Silent Hill. Right off the bat, don't worry. Those Silent Hill games are going to be preserved forever. They're getting like huge modern remasters and remakes and reimaginings. Those series are fine. Maybe there's the hidden gem for you out there somewhere.
Smurf Racer for PS1.
Smurf Racer or Sesame Street Sports for PS1.
Yeah, I was so determined. I was like, these are going to be good. I just actually pre-ordered the N64
Oh, I heard about that.
machine that they dropped. Not so much because I love the N64. I mean, I still think the N64 is a really easy, I have one, an original one still, and it's pretty easy to play. But I was going back and looking at the original NES device, I think the NT Mini or whatever they called it. They're out of stock. Like, that analog isn't making enough stock of these to meet the demand, and then the prices for the stuff is on eBay is just crazy.
Yeah.
And if all these Nintendos are going to keep breaking, you have to have something like that as a backup if you wanted to play the actual physical content.
But I think even with ROMs, like things like Enerbic or however you pronounce that company, even they have their spot. I would never have beaten Bonk 3 if it wasn't for that handheld, because it gives you save states. But but literally, realistically, like a lot of those games, it is a nicer feel to put Bonk on my PC engine that I now have. No need to brag. I'm not going to beat it on. Maybe I could. Bonk's not that hard of a game. That's not maybe the best example ever. But you get what I'm saying. There are certain games I'm never going to beat on original hardware just because I don't... There are other things to do now besides play an NES game for 18 hours a day like you did back in the day. So that just isn't a type of muscle reflex that is really worth getting at this point. I'd rather just save scum it, to be honest. So yeah, even as someone with all the games I own, I am still playing games on ROMs when it makes sense to.
The other thing I was always thinking about running this store was games that would just go to insane prices. The people that were collecting them, that were creating that kind of extreme market value for a game, and how that made it less accessible. I don't know. I feel like anytime you have a spectrum of people doing this, if you say people who are just interested in hobbyists, like what you're kind of talking about on one end, and then people that are just buying something because it's expensive, that maybe playing it, maybe not playing it, they want to acquire this object because it's hard to get and they have the funds to do it. Those people are just creating a bigger wedge in between these groups of people, and they're ultimately gonna just keep driving the market further and further upward. And at the end of the day, these are games. These are not toys, but they're it's a form of entertainment in its original format. To think of it in the terms of art collecting and it getting to that level, I don't know. It's crazy.
People pay a lot of money for dumb stuff. That's just a thing people do.
Yeah.
And it happens with video games. I think a lot of the time there's a reasonable explanation. Not reasonable in the sense of oh, I see why that happened. I will never own Little Samson on NES. That's fine. But, it's because it was released at the super end of the NES's life. It didn't sell that many copies. I see how we got to that point, and I don't know, I guess I'd rather them do it with Little Samson than Super Mario 3. At least that game's
right.
$15. I certainly do not value games based on their monetary value. I mean, I do to some extent because I buy them, but that's not why I don't buy a game because it's expensive. There are games that I've been, not thousands, but I've been willing to pay $170, maybe even $200 for a game, depending on what it is. And I usually understand why it's that expensive on some level.
Right. Well, it also affected what games I sourced for the store as well, because I would have loved to have sourced a lot of weird mid-range stuff, and I did that to some degree, hoping, people would play this weird, $20 PS1 game that was just a weird hour. But it was anytime you could get a good deal on a game, you knew you could flip for a lot, like Silent Hill game or whatever.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you.
And then I just bought all the mid-range ones you
Right,
got.
exactly.
They all went to me. Thank you guys for watching our return episode. In conclusion, we don't know.